Mr. Mohamed Irshad.
Mr. Deputy Speaker and honorable members of the Parliament, allow me to begin my speech with greetings of well wishes to Singaporeans who are celebrating the Tamil festival of Pongal. Pongal திருநாள் கொண்டாடும் அனைவருக்கும் எனது இனிய பொங்கல் நல்வாழ்த்துக்கள். உங்கள் இல்லத்திலும் உள்ளத்திலும் என்றென்றும் மகிழ்ச்சி பொங்கட்டும். Now my speech, please. I support this bill as it enhances and strengthens the Misuse of Drugs Act to effectively and comprehensively tackle the issue of drug abuse in Singapore. Today, I wish to speak on two areas of concern: prevention and integration. Based on statistics by the Central Narcotics Bureau, CNB, 3,091 drug abusers were arrested in 2017. 40% were new drug abusers, and 2/3 of the new drug abusers were under the age of 30. These statistics seem to underlie a growing trend among young in taking a more liberal attitude towards drug abuse, influenced by pro-drug related media content. This was one of the conclusions drawn by the Youth and Public Perception Survey by the National Council Against Drug Abuse, NACADA. Online peddling of drugs has also been flagged out as a rising concern by CNB. What efforts are undertaken by authorities to counter these influences and online drug peddling? Are there plans to flag out and perhaps block such contents or access to websites promoting the use of harmful drugs? Unlike the past, more of today's drug abusers hail from middle and even upper middle class families, with parents having no history of drug abuse. Undergraduate, full-time national servicemen, and young working adults are taking drugs, with some even going overseas to consume drugs, thinking they can evade detection and prosecution. Can I propose that the authorities introduce a mandatory anti-drug course as part of national service? Having just completed my reservist, I believe NS men can also benefit from this training. In tertiary education institution, can I suggest we have organizations such as NACADA step up engagements with students by tying up with student bodies and training these youth to be anti-drug ambassadors in campus? There are currently many efforts aimed at addressing this growing pro-drug trend, including the recent media campaign launched by NACADA and the ongoing Dada Itu Haram campaign, as well as the annual activities and efforts by CNB. But based on my interaction with youth from all spectrum, I found that these campaigns are quite effective at reminding the mainstream youth, but not as effective at targeting the youth who are more at risk of drug abuse due to gang influence or other delinquency issues. It is a challenging issue to address. One step towards targeting those youth at risk is this bill's effort to criminalize acts by adults who expose children to the risk of drug abuse. Often these adults are the children's own parents. Parents who don't seem to care that if you expose a child who does not know better to drugs, you condemn him to a life of misery and addiction. I agree wholeheartedly with this new provision. We must protect our vulnerable young from reckless parents or adults. In the same light, I would also like to support this bill's move to grant Director of CNB the power to require possibly negligent parents or guardians to attend counseling to rehabilitate low-risk youth abusers. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. I say we must do our part to fight and stamp out drug abuse, starting with the young. I also understand that Singapore is studying successful models of engagement from Iceland and Finland to tackle the drug issues effectively. Can the Honourable Minister share if Singapore will be adapting or implementing these models or have drawn lessons from them to improve our local efforts? On integration, Minister K. Shanmugam recently announced that the Singapore Prison Service will look into assigning inmates the same case officer from the start of their sentence until they are fully integrated into the community. He also shared of plans to have counseling sessions via video teleconferencing and an app containing self-help resources and a database for jobs for former offenders. This is a welcome move to better rehabilitate former offenders, and it shows the commitment of our officers. Drug offenders who have been released from prison or the DRC face a lot of obstacles in their efforts to reintegrate themselves back into society. They navigate a world of stigma on their back while coping with their obligation to report for mandatory urine tests at designated police divisions, while trying to avoid some of their peers who may draw them back into drugs. I have learned from ex-drug offenders that they have to report at fixed timings where they are clustered into batches to take their urine tests. Although efficient, this poses some problems. Firstly, I understand that sometimes due to processing delays, these tests may take longer than the stipulated 1 hour which the supervisees have to report for. This affects the livelihood of these former drug offenders as they have to take time off work to take the urine test, sometimes up to 3 times a week. Many of these supervisees work simple jobs as delivery or dispatch riders on part-time basis. Due to inflexible reporting timings or delays in taking the urine test, the jobs are affected, and in some extreme cases, they are laid off. Some of these supervisees are even putting off finding a job just because the potential employers cannot accommodate them taking time off for urine tests. Secondly, clustering the supervisees in batches to take the urine test provides an opportunity to meet other former drug offenders. Such gathering points while waiting to take urine tests provides a platform for ex-offenders who may still be active in illicit drug activities to prey on fellow ex-offenders. Even if a person wants to stay clean and away from drugs, the lure of bad company might lead them back to drugs. Therefore, is there a possibility to allow the supervisees to report for urine tests at flexible timings without being clustered into groups? I hope that MHA looks into this issue to make the process less painful for those who are sincerely and genuinely trying to turn over a new leaf and find a stable employment. Support from the community remains an integral part in the fight against drugs. I commend efforts such as CNB's United Against Drugs Coalition, an anti-drug coalition made up of local organizations and business enterprise. I would also like to highlight the good work undertaken by Revive SG, a ground-up initiative formed in 2017 by a group of former drug-related offenders and renounced gang members. Revive SG not only provides support and counseling to youth at risk, they also conduct recovery programs and educational programs for parents, educators, employers, and the public. I would like to ask if there is funding to support other similar ground-up initiatives. Through such programs, I hope more former drug offenders will come forward to help and perhaps mentor and even serve as a role model to those struggling with drug addiction to overcome and reintegrate back into society. In light of the daunting journey that a former drug offender faces after he leaves prison, I commend the pro-rehabilitation changes proposed in this bill. I think we have a good regime in Singapore that balances deterrence and strict enforcement against drugs while providing as many opportunities as possible to drug offenders to turn around their lives. In conclusion, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I stand in support of this bill and the wider efforts to ensure a drug-free Singapore.